What's going on, everybody? Welcome to tonight's broadcast of the ACL. We are coming at you with week number 2, and with our new format, already going to be qualifying our first set of teams to the ACL playoffs. Going to be our first seeds or second seeds if they've been able to come in with the proper upsets, face it off to determine who is going to be able to make it into that first round of top 4 seeds. My name is Gordo. I am joined by Shauna Tonin on the broadcast today. Thank you so much for subbing in on short notice, Sean. And we've got a banger series today as Papa's Chonccs takes on Milk Esports.
Yeah, really excited. Thank y'all for having me, obviously, and love some ACL action. Little precursor for a lot of people to go into their full week of League of Legends, ACL and ACL, and then you get some LTA, or if you want to watch subpar League of Legends, you watch LEC. But just there it is right there. So really excited for both of these teams right here because, we were both on the seeding committee, and I definitely was rating Papa Chonccs really high here.
Yeah, I agree. I had them pretty high as well. There was I think they were a little deflated because they had a different roster at first, and not everybody changed their votes after the roster changed. Right? Originally, they had Wilson down in the bottom lane, and they were going to be running Claw was his name in the jungle, a
Yeah, I think that was
former
right.
Turkish Academy player who we weren't super familiar with. So there's a little back and forth about the roster. Now moving Wilson back to his home role, bringing in Chrome at 80 carry. I think it gets a little undisputable that this team should have been up in the top 4, up in those seed ones, right
Absolutely.
alongside the 3 full NACL teams that we have here in ACL. But this is going to be their chance to prove it here tonight because they've got a tough opponent in Milk. And we have found that they were getting a little bit of a vision of the old version as we do not have Chrome in the roster today. We're
Yeah.
told it's going to be Biostir coming in. And it occurs to me now, they could have done Wilson 80 carry Biostir jungle. That's where Biostir played last we saw of him back in the previous ACL. But we are told he's going to be playing 80 carry. It's going to be Wilson in the jungle here. We can bring up that roster. I guess I've just kind of gone through the full roster top to bottom. But it is, of course, Denethor, Wilson, Papa, Biostir, and only 35 starting for Papa's Chonccs.
Yeah, really excited to see them together. Also, I know this is not the full NACL roster of Winthrop. You maybe be like, I know all these names, guys. Yeah, this is Papa's Chonccs, and Papa, artist formerly known as Conveying, is someone who I've always held in pretty high regard. Has always kind of teetered on that high tier 3, going into tier 2 style of play. Gonna be really interesting to see how he performs today. I haven't seen him perform in a while. And then also how Biostar, who, when we were talking before we went live, he may be listed as a jungler when we've seen him last. But according to what your little research was, he's playing 80 carry in solo queue. So maybe not too much of a drop off in just understanding of the role here. But I do think that the weight is going to be more so on that top side of the map here for Papa Chonccs with that sub in the bot lane.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely agree with you on being interested in seeing what Papa is going to have to offer for us here. Previously, the starting mid laner for Winthrop prior to Sword's inclusion on the roster back in, the 2022 into 2023 kind of era. And also definitely showed up on some notable rosters over time, right? He was on some of the first versions of that lit esports team. He's on Keep Pathing Bot, which is a really strong ACL team back in the day. That team had Sajed on it before he kind of had his big breakthrough into the NACL on FlyQuest and things like that. He was on that Euphoria Narium team, which I think is kind of like an infamous flop now, and then was on Clown Gaming towards the end of last year. So he's taken off 2025 so far, but it's not like this guy's been gone for forever, right? He's not a Nori. He's been here pretty recently, and I think he's performed admirably, right? I don't think he's not Sword, but I don't think he's this massive downgrade, not a great player in his position for the ACL level that maybe some would argue.
Yeah, I think he just adds a little bit of a different dynamic than what Sword does bring from if you're used to watching the majority of this roster in NACL or for CLO for Winthrop. But, has a lot of, can play some of the Silas, a little bit of the Ari and some of the other control mages as well. I wouldn't be expecting to see him play the likes of like the Gallios and stuff, or Pocket Zeds that we're known for a sword about. But will be interesting because their opponent today is Milk Esports, and that roster of Sunlight, Evan Lai, Melky, Enthralled, and Freak Clean. That's what it looks like, but I'm pretty sure it's not
that's their IGN. It is Cray Cray. Yeah.
Yeah.
Covenant, and
Yeah.
that's Ben one in mid as well. Is their like normally known comp IDs. So
Got it.
gonna be interesting to see Ben one in particular, who has kind of like he was a coach on the version of this team that competed in the last OQ. Right, their last OQ roster was Sunlight, Evan Lai. It was Elias mid. Ben one was a coach. It was still enthralled at AD, and then they had a mixture of Mystiquez and Clarit's bot. So it's interesting now.
Yeah.
Enthralled coming from LRN, bringing in his LRN support in Cray Cray here. And then the wild card is Ben one in mid, and what this guy who we haven't gotten to see much of in organized comp, but has been high elo for a long time, is going to be able to show us.
Yeah, and what I really like about this, and I'll say this about like the whole, I'll go on a spiel about like Milk Esports as an org. I know there's two teams that are here competing in ACL, but Milk Esports, in my opinion, is like kind of on the come up for like esports orgs on the way to like building their own brand and stuff. And this roster, you know, if you look at this and you see Sunlight and Evan Lai, you're like, Quest. He has his hands in this, you know, something of that nature. And that's kind of where my eyes are drawn. I'm looking at this team as like the carries for me are going to be like Sunlight doing what he wants to do on the top side with his wacky picks or something that like can gain an advantage and then take that to the bottom lane where Enthralled is there. Really interested to see both Ben one and Cray Cray right there. And I think Evan Lai has been a really, really solid jungler throughout their career here. Has, you know, had some really, really high placements, but for the most part, has, I would say, kind of been overshadowed by some of the other like more senior names within whatever league he's playing in.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Enthralled, a player that I'm really excited to see here. Happy to have him back in the ACL after being away for a little bit. I think pairing up with Cray Cray, who's a little bit of a veteran in the tier 2 LATAM space, is going to definitely be a really strong contender as well. I do want to call out, just because I'm not entirely sure which roster they're running today, that when they played against GCS, they did run kind of a different iteration of this team. And this flashes me back to like the old Maryville B teams that would play in ACL, because they would do stuff like this. But this team has run iterations where they put Subaru in from sub. He's Plastic Memories on the sub list there. They've put Subaru in mid. They've put Ben one in bot, and they've brought in Hiccup at support. So if they don't have Enthralled and Cray Cray, that may very well be the iteration that we end up seeing. But that's going to depend on who they're able to field today. So potentially a little bit of chaos in the bottom lane for both sides.
Yeah, for sure. And like I'll say this: if it is Hiccup and Enthralled, Ducky Getters fans kind of getting a little bit, you know, happy right there. They did go on that nice run in that 64 team tournament that we had at the beginning of the year. So there is some pre-existing synergy there. But overall, like I do think with the potential subs even coming from Milk, but also the one that we talked about with Biostar, that this matchup that you would have seen the names on paper and thought a little bit more heavily favored towards Papa Chonccs, maybe is a closer 60-40 than or a little bit slightly below that in terms of like how this match could go to 3 games here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, you know, I think 60-40 sounds really fair, actually. I think there's particularly the players who are missing, right? If we assume Milk is running their standard starting roster that you're looking at on your screen right now, I think that makes the matchup quite interesting, because I think if you put Biostar in at 80 carry with only 35, I actually then pretty heavily favor Enthralled and Cray Cray as the bot lane duo. Ben one, still a wild card, because we have not gotten to see too much of this guy, and half the games we have seen of him have been with him playing bot lane. They were all quite good. He had a good Corki game, a great Twitch game, a really strong Yone game last week. So can't really find too many faults with his play so far, at least against some lighter competition. And then Evan Lai and Sunlight, these are two of like the staples of these kind of Milky Sports, Guangdong Flying Tigers teams that have been able to make really solid runs in the OQs. So I don't expect them to just get run over by the likes of Denethor and Wilson either.
Yeah, I agree with you. And actually, just looking like in totality across the board, for me, Sunlight versus Denethor, it's gonna be fun because if it's like standard matchups, it's gonna be fun. But I do know that Sunlight likes to pull out some of this interesting stuff sometimes in the top
Oh yeah.
lane. And if they're on red side, almost certainly he's either getting, R5 or he's definitely getting counter pick at some point. So really, really excited as we'll be heading into draft here hopefully shortly. But it's just overall, I'm really, really excited, really glad to be here. Love watching some good League of Legends here in the Aegis Champions League.
Yeah, definitely. And it's an understatement to say that Sunlight has gone for some of the wackier picks so far. So 4 games for Milky Sports so far. Sunlight has shown us Set, Pantheon, Mundo, Darius. Have been his 4 champions. So he doesn't need an R5 counter pick to show something a little abnormal. And I don't think this game is going to be any exception. The Mundo in particular, been a big favorite of his as of late. He's drawn bans on it against certain teams. He has also piloted it when given the opportunity. So basically 100% presence for Mundo, got banned both games by GCS, and then he locked it in game 1 against Lotus. So fearless away in his 4th game, but basically 100% presence for Mundo on this guy. And when the Mundo may as well be the most standard champion of the bunch.
Yeah, what I think is really funny is this. I'll be showing my tenure here. Do you remember the CLG spin wheel that Monte Cristo had?
Yes, I do.
I really feel like that's how Sunlight chooses his champions. Like he's just gonna spin the wheel, and he's like, I guess I'm playing York today, or Quinn. Hope it's a good matchup. Whatever. I hope we don't see Quinn. I hate that champion. But yeah. So it's I'm really, really excited for this. And then again, going back to like the types of the players that I'm really looking forward to. Sunlight Denethor matchup right there. But then, as we were talking about, Ben 1, we don't really know. And then kind of seeing Papa come back into competitive play here for someone that, I have always really thought that Winthrop has done really good scouting, and they've had good players both at like their varsity level and for their JV teams. So overall, like Papa, I've always felt like is like right at the cusp, kind of like what other people would be like with a Sudsy, who is now finally in there, is around the same sort of tier of like, I wouldn't call him a gatekeeper. I just think that sometimes he's been in unfortunate circumstances, kind of like I think it was the Euphoria team that you had talked about, which I really thought that team was going to do, and I thought they were going to perform real well.
It's one of those crazy. I think it's like it was a little hit to every player on that roster's career, but it's like I don't think there's anybody you could look back and be like, oh, this is where you went wrong, other than maybe Thanos was their rookie 80 carry that never appeared anywhere again.
I was so hyped on that guy. I was actually really, really hyped on that guy. So
and like,
get a good name.
It doesn't have to end there, dude. That was like one turn. You played one weekend. You can come back. Look, we're not picky right now. Okay, there's a whole beggars choosers situation. Come hang out. If you're a challenger and your first trial at pro play didn't go 100% your way, don't be afraid. Give it another round, buddy. You got plenty of opportunities here. There's some chances out there, but the rest of that squad, I mean, like Shimmer. Think about where Shimmer's gone since then, right? Shimmer's back in the NACL, baby.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm so happy for him, honestly. That's why I kind of like the melding together of what the NACL teams with Aegis champions is that before I really felt that ACL was separated, but almost equal to like maybe like your bottom 3 NACL teams. And it was a bit difficult to like, oh, well, how would they perform against these players? Or how would they do this? And I kind of just wish that all 10 NACL teams would have just like sent it into ACL. just so you have a better understanding. And it kind of reminds me of like whether it's the old scouting grounds or even like the old NACL when like they had the ranked fives tournaments and stuff like that. We're kind of just going down a memory lane here. Says we're
Sorry, we got some time to kill. We're waiting on a couple of players.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, we're at about 50% NACL uptake right now. We'll see. Maybe we can get that last bit as we come into. I mean, fall is up next, and fall is always the biggest ACL because there's no Riot official play, and nobody's on predetermined teams, so everybody's shuffling around, and we always send players straight to LCS. That's 100% ACL right there, baby. We're 2 years in a row now. We've sent players straight to tier 1 from ACL. 100% the reason. Nothing. I mean, for Isles, it kind of was. I'm not gonna lie. Isles didn't even get to play an ACL, and he played ACL, and then he went LTA. So you know what?
There you go, man.
We'll count that.
The writing was on the wall. It was like, hey, if you play an ACL, that's where the scouts are looking. They don't look at NACL anymore. Yeah.
No, I mean, hey, you know what? Listen. Just say it. If you want to play against a tier 1 player right at the last minute, fall ACL is the place to be. We had. What do we have? We had Scary Jerry last year was the big one. I think there might have been one other. Did XU play last year? I'm not sure, but Scary Jerry definitely did. And then the year before, we had a couple. We had Isles, we had Meech, we had Surdy that year. So definitely a fun time. Definitely a fun time this time. Might even have some future LTA orgs in right now if things go according to Supernova's plan or even Citadel's plan over the course of the rest of this split. So always fun to see these players continue to move on, and also been a lot of fun to get to see, speaking of Cray Cray, a lot of our LATAM friends joining up for ACL. As with all things in the NA dev space, feels like CLOL has kind of led the charge on that a little bit, bringing in some more LATAM players to fill out some of their rosters. And now you can see, like, on teams like Milk, we're starting to get a little bit more in the tier 3, tier 2 space as well, and that's exciting to see. I think these guys could definitely show up and compete with our players. I think Stray showed that. He had a forget what you saw in NACL. Stray had a sick ACL last fall. All right, he really had me believing. He really had me messing up my power rankings. So I think Cray could definitely do much of the same here.
I like that shout out though about like the LATAM players, and then also even like some of our CBLOL Academy players. You look at like Weber State, who the aforementioned Supernova. They took a game off them last week, right? Which was
Weber State has one NA player on it.
Yeah, they have Batal, who's CBLOL, you who's CBLOL, Goku-chan who's CBLOL, Cindy. There's your North American talent. We make great 80 carries here in North America. Let me tell you. Yeah, this guy can.
Yeah, and then Mystic Quest is supposed to be the starter sport.
Yeah, but right now it's Bounty, who is also from CBLOL. So.
True.
Yeah. So it's it's really cool. And even before Riot was like, let's make it LTA, we were like, let's just make it all the Americas in North America. So it's all good. And I'm just really excited for this. Looking at like where both of these teams have come from, right? Milk Esports beat DCS Challengers 2-0, and then they beat Lotus 2-0, which I'm not saying is a shocking thing, but Lotus is no slouch of a team. And then obviously Papa John's had that bye and played the winner of Galaxy Gaming and Zero Animosity. And then Galaxy Gaming, who I was a little bit lower on than most people for their roster, but still obviously I think in like my mind like a top 12-ish team. They beat them 2-1 to get here right now, and then I think the winner of this, right, like goes on and they're like solidified. But then the loser of this one will then play the winner of the Galaxy Gaming, CGS, Lotus, and Zero Animosity foursome right there.
Yeah, I think I was higher than consensus on the Galaxy Gaming team. I've been really impressed.
Yeah, you were. I looked at your ballot and I was like, all right, Gordo, you either know something.
Well, and they've gone through some roster changes themselves now. They have Crackedon instead of a Nori now. I don't know if that brings them up or down.
That brings them up for me. I'm a Crackodon guy, so
I think I'm with that. I'm with that, especially when it's like I don't know what to think about Inori anymore, man. It's just hasn't been playing consistently. No hate to the player, but you know, if you're not showing up in front of my eyes very often, you're just gonna steadily go down all the time.
All I can see with Inori is him doing this versus TSM. So the old fan in me makes me really sad.
Brings back some rough memories. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've been really impressed with what Karshiak's been able to show. I like that Crackodon addition to that roster. I've always been an Aj homer as well. So I'm excited to see more out of that team. And I'm not the most shocked in the world that they were able to take a game up against Papa's Chonccs, but that is still quite impressive. I wouldn't have predicted it, even though it's not the craziest thing in the world to me. But we're getting into draft here, and already our boy Sunlight is starting to draw a little bit of attention. There goes the Mundo ban, there goes the Kled ban, and you don't have to worry about the Gwen, as that's getting banned targeted towards Denethor.
These are like, I've never seen top lane banned this much, because the Pantheon is also like kind of like a self-ban away from Sunlight in some ways, even though it's on their side, but like he could play that. And then, okay, Ivern, this champion is disgusting right now. And I think that, you know, when you have someone like Enthralled on your team, right, definitely don't want to give him any more, you know, agency or the ability to like kind of just super carry some of these fights.
Yeah, and Evan lies in a similar category of like Ivern player that Sunlight is as a Mundo player, right? It's de facto 100% presence for him this tournament. He locked it in game one right off the bat, had it fearless away for his second, had it banned the other two. So now coming on in, Papa's Chonccs, they're going to first pick that Azir. That one's going right over to Papa. See what the response is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, B1 Azir meta usually makes me like honk snoo, because it's just like, oh, okay, whatever. They're going to pick Talia, they'll pick Ziggs or whatever. But Ben 1 looks like he's hovering over these Akali and these Yone answers, and we're going to get the Akali into it.
Yeah, all right. So that's probably going to, as we're being asked to call him Melk, Melke. So I'm going to pronounce Milk the way that.
Milk on milk. Got it.
Yeah, Melk. The way that do you know anybody who pronounces Milk? I know a lot of people who do.
I know people who do that, and I also know people who put an L in the word both. That's a pet peeve of mine. They go both.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, that definitely happens. So. Melk on Milk. Melk is going to be their mid laner for this game. Locking in the Akali nice and early here, and we'll be using that to face off against Papa's Azir. Now a first crack at perhaps the jungle for Papa's Chonccs. I see PC, I keep wanting to say Peach Cats from the 2023 ACL. That's what PC in this league means to me, but Papa's Chonccs perhaps going to be able to put their name to replace that one, although previous PC made it all the way to finals, so got a long journey to take that namesake away from them. But the Jarvan already locked in. Interesting to see that one snapped up so early as a response to the Xin Zhao, especially seeing the Akali, who's going to be able to kind of make no work of that Cataclysm pretty quickly. The Jace going to be locked in for Denethor up top.
Yeah, I'm a little bit interested by the Jarvan, because they were hovering over the Trundle for a while, and I thought the Trundle looked really, really good, in my opinion. Into the Xin Zhao, but then, you know, your 2v2 is infinitely weaker. The Jace blind makes a lot of sense for Denethor into what he's probably expecting from the likes of Sunlight's champion pool. But man, what's the old joke?
It's the Yorick. It happened. That's where the spinner lands, Sean. All right. So we are going to get to see the Undertaker up there in the top lane for Sunlight. And now it's junglers and solo laners locked in for both sides, so plenty of bot lane bans soon to come through.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at, so like stuff like Jhin, I think is going to be like banned or picked by one of these two teams. I think there's a lot of, you know, utility that's needed with the amount of damage coming out from these top sides. You know, Varus is another type of utility. Ashe, for whatever reason, isn't as much high prio for both of these players, but just in the league overall. But I do think it kind of serves that same purpose here. But I'm really, really interested to kind of see where they go, because like I still think when I'm seeing this Milk roster and I see Enthralled, and I think, yeah, Papa Chonccs agrees, the hyper carries are where it's at, even if the utility champion is what I believe they should go with. So the Vayne and the likes of the Chonccs is another one that I'm kind of looking at there.
Yeah, and I mean, your top side's going to be Yorick and Zhao Akali, so you're going to need to have some consistent DPS coming through from the bottom lane, from Enthralled, if you're going to want to be able to actually navigate these team fights and win out against the likes of the Azir and the Jace, who are really going to be, representing, I think, a more holistic team fight profile if you do end up getting into those sorts of situations. There goes the Yunara as well as another one of the favorites. The Jinx is still up. The Jinx is pretty dangerous, but you are facing down Jarvan, so stuff like the Jinx and the Aphelios and the less mobile members of the roster start to feel a little bit uncomfortable facing down up against that created terrain. See what the priority is going to fall onto for Enthralled here.
Yeah, while that's true, support counter pick I think will be fine. Kai'Sa makes a lot of sense for, I guess they're probably looking at engage on the bot lane to like start some of these fights off because you have a triple melee top side. So they're going to be really short range, and that's the problem that Milk runs into right now, is that they are so short ranged versus an Azir and a Jace, possibly an Aphelios, which I think is okay, though I do think he kind of struggles against being an immobile carry. But if he has something like the Pocket Lulu, there's the gem we were talking about. I like this a whole lot better. While he is immobile, yeah, that's what PC stands for. Pocomp.
Yeah,
all right,
there you go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to remember a lot of PC acronyms over the course of this series. At this rate.
Yeah, exactly.
There could be the Jhin locked on in, and the Rel for a little bit of additional lockdown and a little bit of additional peel potential for the likes of this Jhin, Jace, and Azir. Like what I'm seeing out of Papa's Chonccs. Milk now with a chance to counter. The Poppy going to be a big pain for both Rel and Jarvan, and even Azir and Jace too. I would not hate to see this one come on through for Cray Cray, and as you know, it feels weird to say because he's new to our scene, but should be one of the more competitively experienced players on this Milk roster. He's able to show up and perform on the Poppy. That will do a lot to benefit this Milk team, and it will be locked on in. I don't know what it is about support Poppy, Sean, but over the course of 2025, every time support Poppy is locked in, it just completely carries the game. For at least on these streams, there have been so many crazy support Poppy pop-offs. I am interested to see if Cray Cray can join that roster.
Yeah, I think that's probably because most of the time, if it's either picked early or like here on R5, you get to see the majority of this, so you get to swap it down into that support position when it really makes a lot of sense. You don't want to Braum here, right? Because while, yeah, it's fine into the engage of like the Rel, there's so much poke that you're just going to be walking around absolutely miserable for the Braum. So I really do like the Poppy here. But again, the range will become an issue the further on we go in this game. But I will say that both comps are kind of running tankless, a bunch of bruisers everywhere. So with the amount of damage presented by both of these teams, if they want to start scrapping early, I really favor Milk Esports, and I think a more controlled game and trying to punish some of like the more standard way that we watch League of Legends of like punishing flash timers and then just playing standard front to back really favors Papa's Chonccs here.
Agreed. That feels like the big answer here for Milk is get Sunlight ahead, get him into a good position, and that will let you kind of create a pressure point on the map, force somebody else's attention up there, whether it be Papa or Only 35 or Wilson coming on up to try to respond to Sunlight's push. And then when you're in those 4v3 situations, get some good flanks going from Evan, from Cray Cray, from Melk, and from Enthralled. I mean, all these guys so well adapted to being able to dive in and force those fights once the situation presents itself. So going to see if Milk will be able to put themselves in those sorts of positions, because in Sunlight v Denethor, this is definitely the hardest opponent Sunlight has had to go against so far this ACL. Denethor having himself a little bit of a split over in the NACL. I think probably an early contender to be up towards the top of the list for top lane performers so far. I think he's up at the top for GD at 15 for all positions or something right now. I just believe I heard that on the broadcast last week. It's like him and one of the marksman players. I don't remember who. I'm misquoting Mystery Caster from NACL, so don't take my words at too heavy value.
Yeah,
but it's been a strong split for Denethor regardless.
I don't really listen to Mystery Caster that much. I usually turn it off when I'm... No, I'm kidding. whoever that was. But yeah, Denethor is probably, you know, I've been watching actually a lot of his streams lately. And he's probably playing some of the best League of Legends he has in his entire career. You know, which was saying a lot because when he came onto the scene with Tempest Gaming back in the day, him and Mobility, he was kind of this like new flashy thing in the hot pan, and you know, then everyone was like, oh, he's just a Camille main, blah blah blah. But no, this guy is putting a lot of work. He's doing really really well right now, and I think that in this matchup top side, he has to know that Sunlight is going to be a focus, that he has to be like, if he comes out even in this lane, that's not good enough for Denethor. And I actually put a lot of onus on Wilson here on this Jarvan. You know, you're not going to outfarm Evan on the Zen. You got to make some early plays happen, I think, to kind of get better conditions for your laners. And then just make sure that you are first at these objectives with only 35 here on this rail, to where y'all can set up and have them face check into your poke and into your zone control.
Absolutely here. And, you know, you got me thinking, so I had to go and check. Now that I see the list, got me thinking that strength of schedule might have a little bit to do with it. But current top players for gold difference at 15 in the NACL, number 1 is Sword, number 2 is Insanity, number 3 is Denethor. So the Winthrop solo laners taking up 2 of the top 3 spots. That said, at this point in the split, Winthrop has not played Dark Zero, Luminosity, or Supernova. So they have had the easiest schedule possible so far.
Yeah.
But still, credit where it's due. I mean, they've had the easier matchups and they've won them handedly.
The ones that they have won, yeah. I mean,
the ones that they have won. They've won. When they win, they win. And even when they don't win, apparently they have a lead at 15 because they're right up at the top of that leaderboard, even above teams that have not lost games or not lost as many games.
I will say that might be a skewed stat only because, and I apologize to all my friends over at Blue Otter, but that Blue Otter game that they played against where Quacker went Olaf, I'm pretty sure they were up like 10K at 19 minutes. So one good game's going to make your gold at 15 look real good. But yeah, I'm really, really excited for this, like kind of honing back. And also Insanity has missed some games, so his is like a little bit different on that.
Yeah, he's playing 4 games on his list, where everybody else is playing 6.
Yeah, Five Mini came in for 2. Shout out Five Mini, who's also on the other Milk Esports, if I'm not...
You're correct.
I am correct. All right, good job. My brain works. But really, really interested to see how this comes out here. I also think that when we're looking at this Milk Esports lineup right here, I want to know if they're able to recognize when they are strong and take advantage of that, right? Like these 1 atom power spikes from the Akali, from Zen, once Sunlight hits 6 and stuff like that, and then where they want to play around. Because I'm pretty sure as long as Sunlight doesn't get put behind early, whatever side he's on, that objective, if it's up, should be something they want to look at contesting as long as he has the maiden up and available.
Definitely, especially because you don't want to get into positions where you surrender too many early objectives. That's going to give Papa's Chonccs the opportunity then in the kind of middle to early late game to really force the objectives that are remaining, right? If they get the 2 early dragons, then you feel obligated to contest it 3rd and 4th with your full roster, and that's not exactly what Yorick wants to be doing. If you can sneak away a couple of those early on, then it gives you a lot more freedom and flexibility to make good on that Yorick pick. And of course, if you're able to get the grubs, that's even better for Yorick. That ups his split push potential just that little bit further, gets the timers going just a little bit faster, and means he can accomplish more with whatever time he is afforded. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. I want to see a little more prio towards the early game objectives, especially when you are Xin Zhao into Jarvan. Feels like that's the kind of matchup where Xin Zhao can win the 1v1, even though they both have this kind of early game identity. That's an opportunity I want to see Evan Lai try to take advantage of if he can find Wilson in a dark alley and get a little bit of an advantage there.
So dark alley being like the alcove or like somewhere in like the river on the map exactly?
Probably more like the jungle, a ramp or something like that. I think I mean, if you can find him in an alcove, great, but that just feels unlikely for a place for this two to be at any point in this early game. But we are on to Summoner's Rift. Welcome to game number 1, everybody. Pops Chonccs taking on Milk Esports. If you're just joining us now, hold tight. I'll explain where we're at in a second, because Cray is about to walk right into 4 members. Denethor gonna get the first jump onto him. Here comes only 35, a massive knock up onto 2. Looking for Cray. One more shock blast and one more dancing grenade will do it. Bioster, the substitute, walking away with first blood.
Okay, you know what? The wait was worth it for us to have a kill at 55 seconds. That got me more luck back in. 3 sums blown on the bot side for Milk. Cray going a little bit too Cray right there, and Bioster gonna start out with a nice extra set of boots. Did have to burn his flash, as well as only 35 right there with a nice little flash crash down as well. But you know, that's gonna be an early lead right there, and like the boots for Jin will help out probably with making this bottom lane a little bit easier and make the trades a little bit more advantageous for Papa's Chonccs.
Definitely. Now we get a little bit of a calmer early game. This is gonna be a Hex Flash early from only 35, but Enthralled wisely keeping his distance. So for PC versus Milk, nature of our new format here, Sean, if you're just tuning in now, is winner of this series is going to qual playoffs right here. It's plenty early, and they're going to have plenty of regular season games left to play, but those are just going to be for seeding to determine if you're first, second, third, or fourth seed. Winner here will guarantee themselves playoffs and will kind of take themselves out of the dredges of competition, right? They'll get themselves away from pretty much everybody that isn't the top 4 seed, and they'll just kind of play in their own little top 4 bubble up until playoff starts.
Yeah, and that's actually one thing I've actually kind of really liked about the new ACL format, is that it makes the top teams like not have to like kind of sweat or play some of these extra games that seem a bit unnecessary. Where, by the way, Denethor is laning mid into the Akali, and Papa is laning top into Sunlight. So that's something that we did not see. But I like the lane allocation here, as I do think it's better lanes for obviously Papa Chonccs here. But I do think,
except for this part.
Yeah.
I agree in a vacuum, but the problem for Papa is that this can happen. And I don't know what he does when this happens, because Evan Lie's already here right in his face. He's not even going to flash. He knows he's not going to get away. And that's going to be the first kill to Milk Esports.
Yeah, I may not be a caster, but I sure do curse a lot. As the Azir doesn't want to be in a long lane for sure. I just think that you got to know that timing right there. It wasn't free camp, so the early action that I was looking to probably see from Wilson actually came out from Evan Lie right there, punishing Papa in this top lane really, really well. And, you know, tries to get that gold closer back into that 500 range.
Definitely. Elk getting in there for some of these trades up against Denethor. This is definitely a rougher matchup for the Akali, though, especially pre-level 6 when you're just doing your best to try to pick up whatever farm you can. It's a tough matchup to have to play against like an auto attacker in general, which Azir also is somewhat, but definitely these low cooldown harasses coming in from the Jace, not the best of matchups. It's a 4 versus 3 in the bottom side. Cray is going to get jumped on and fall down very early. It's a flash in from Milk, though, to make one execute happen and going to try to keep the fight going. No real cooldowns left, though. There is no perfect execution at level 4. Evan going to get knocked up by Wilson and will be executed by Bioster. A 3-0 start for the substitute marksman, and another one to the team as Denethor comes in crashing down, giving a kill over to Wilson.
Yeah, and I think this actually like changes what we were talking about in the pre-show, because you know, you assumed that it was going to be the Azir mid lane, which meant that your skirmish power around bot and mid wasn't as strong. But you have Jace here, who's really, really strong in the early game, definitely stronger than the Akali, who was already kind of chunked out in that play. And then from the early pressure that bot lane was able to get, they invade Evan Lie here, and they come out, they get the feats of warfare. And speaking of feats, Bioster has got those boots of swiftness already here at 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, what a great start for Bioster. We talk about this a lot at all levels of play. that when you have substitutes or less experienced players coming in, it's great to make them comfortable. It's great to give them champions that they're good on. It's great to enable them by getting a little focus towards their lane. And I mean, that has definitely happened for Biostar in this game number one. 3-0 start, hanging with only 35 in the bottom lane. Definitely one of the better supports we have competing in ACL this split. He is as comfortable can be playing against Enthralled and Cray right now. And it's setting up his team very, very well with about a 1K gold lead early on.
Yeah, and no longer going to be laning versus Cray, and I really like this move from Papa Chonccs, is to get this Azir out of this Yorick lane, right? More advantageous, obviously, as we mentioned, for the Jace. Now, Sunlight does have level 6, and they do have the Maiden available, but I don't think that he's going to really enjoy this top side here, because the speed of which the Jhin will be able to move out probably should never be trapped right there, and it also gives the Azir did until they moved it. It was going to give him a good lane to farm him, but they've now moved bot lane mid on the side of Milk, and that looks like it's actually going to make Denethor probably want to swap, because I don't think that these lane assignments now are where Papa Chonccs actually want it to be, with Azir having to lane against the Akali.
Yeah, I'm very curious as to how Milk is trying to handle these lane assignments too, because Sunlight certainly feels like he doesn't have a clear vision of what he's supposed to do in the 1 versus 2. He just kind of steps up, pops ult against only 35, gets him to half, and then feels obligated to flash away from a crash down not too long after. So he's now out that summoner spell while the team starts up the dragon. So does redeploy to top lane to try to pull some pressure. Only 35 has already said screw it to that top lane though, and so has Biostar roaming on down to try to contest for this dragon that's still at about half HP. Milk gonna be pushed off here. Milk coming in on the flank, but this is a 4 versus 5 if it breaks out, but they're just gonna have to hand it over.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice move, and you know, movement speed, one of the most underrated stats in the game. Cloud Soul, best soul, by the way. Let me know in chat if you agree. If you don't let me know. But having Biostar with these boots, he does give up 2 plays to Sunlight, so this is really nice, or almost 2 plays to Sunlight here. But him being able to have that first move, Sunlight not having teleport right there, I think a little bit of a premature start from the side of Milk. Right there, they didn't have all their waves aligned, and they didn't have TP on their top laner. So nice little punish right there from Papa Chonccs to say TY for leash on that Drake, which was something we had talked about. Milk really needing to get some of these early objectives because of the scaling advantage or being there first as the game goes on.
Yeah, well, here's their next shot. They do have a chance to try to work on the grubbies here. Both mid laners find themselves to the bottom side. Called a little bit on the back foot for the mid push, but they do catch Biostar inside of the wall. Great move by Sunlight there. That's going to take Biostar below half, and it might give Milk the positioning that they need to be able to take the majority of these grubs, if not all 3 of them. Cray already marking Wilson, so they know exactly where that Jarvan's going to be, and you can't flag and drag in with the Poppy in your face. So Milk going to take all 3 grubs.
And of the 2 objectives in the early game, I think this is definitely the one that if you're Milk, it's what you want, right? Oh, that's conveying.
Ooh. Nice little shove there from Papa. Will force, I believe that was perfect execution, R1 out from Milk, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, had to be.
So we'll wait and see the ulti cooldown come on through. I don't see the recast showing up, so maybe it wasn't. Maybe that was a shuriken flip and we missed it. Either way, Trickster on his way on up, or Wilson rather, going to try to collapse onto Sunlight here. Cataclysm comes on out. Sunlight notably does not have access to the flash, so he will likely be falling out here. Does manage to dodge away from the flag and drag, but it's just going to delay a little bit of time. Here's the counterplay cross map. Papa up pretty far, tries to flash away, can't scoot though with Cray on top of him. Will get another soldier down to be able to shuffle away. Good discipline there to not use the shifting sands and knock yourself down.
Yeah, I also just really like the play from Cray as well, like not preemptively doing it. Makes him have to, you know, burn his flash as well. He had just TP'd back to that bot lane. So Papa kind of taking the short end of the stick of all of his lane swap shenanigans that we've had here in this first 10 minutes. But looking at the rest of his team, they all have bounties right now. They're all farming fairly well into their counterparts, but Enthralled just slightly behind.
Yeah, strong early game from Papa's Chonccs, really kind of being held by the linchpin of that fight in the bottom lane that they won so hard. Get so much money into Biostir to continue to build up on that lead. Granted, it has not manifested in an early legendary item for Biostir. It's Denethor and Wilson that are on those spikes earliest, and Denethor the only one who has the real advantage over his lane opponent in Melk. We'll see if they're going to be able to make good on that before Melk is able to go in there and complete an item of their own. Will be second dragon here in about 90 seconds, and like we mentioned earlier, do want to see Melk try to contest those when they're playing this sort of composition. They might try to make another play on a Papa here early, though, really targeting this Azir. Cray and Evan both up on the top side of the map.
I like this play a whole lot more because if you get this kill here, which they most likely will, Papa does have the Azir ultimate up and available, but Papa should just be able to hit him the wall.
Like that send very early from Cray. Papa stays alive for a little bit longer. Enthralled, a really nice killer instinct there. Dodges out on the Cataclysm and will get himself out to safety. Responds to the cross map. They will protect the turret with a TP from Denethor, but surely that is somewhat ceding control over the bottom side. They still have plenty of time. Papa will be respawned. We'll see how Milk want to adjust to this situation, but actually, with Denethor pushing up, they're going to just try to go on him here. Evanlai making away on up. Denethor going to have to outplay this or expend his flash. Gets knocked back away by the Crescent Guard, and now will have to flash. Nice move by Evan.
Yeah, I will say that I liked the whole sequence until that moment from Milk. Now, granted, they may still have first move onto this Drake here, but I really felt like that moment right there, what they did in the top side, there's no more ultimate from the Azir. He has no TP. You know, the TP from Denethor is also down as well. So you could have just had first setup on this Drake. Is Denethor going to be taken down likely?
Yeah, and Sunlight's going to flash on him, and the solo kill last rites to Sunlight, punishing Denethor for his overaggression earlier and making good on that forced flash from Evanlai earlier on. Good job from Milk to capitalize on that situation, and it gives them a numbers advantage on the map for this dragon coming up, as well as that first turret that they've been working for the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, and see, this is the extension of that play that they just did, so this is really good for them because not only did they get first turret, but he's going to be first here to where Denethor is going to have to answer the top side. Now, I actually think that this is a little bit ambitious from the side of Papa Chonccs right here, because while it is an even fight, I guess they just do too much damage to it. I really feel like if Evan and Lion Company would have pushed out through mid, they could have had the opportunity to take this Drake and try to split this up so that you could deny this sole point. And it's going to be Mountain, which I think is absolutely huge for both teams. We had talked about in the pre that there was, you know, a bunch of bruisers. So any type of extra resistances that you get will just be that much better against the type of damage. You know, the poke right here, obviously not going to land as hard, right? Or some of the burst damage coming out from the likes of the Akali.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Enthralled is just no flash, no killer instinct, and the call is that they can't take that fight when Enthralled is like that and Sunlight is top. Very well maybe the wiser choice up against this kind of composition from PC, but it does mean that second dragon goes over to Papa's Chonccs. Here comes Melk looking for a solo kill. Great dodge from Papa to get away from the second cast. A perfect execution.
Oh, wow,
and that will prevent the damage from coming on through. And Enthralled gonna have to cleanse away from that deadly flourish, but it will not keep him safe. He falls. Killer Instinct not giving him the space he needs, and a collapse now coming through from only 35. Cray gonna get spotted by Wilson. Will be held down, trying to get away now with Steadfast Presence, but that's going to expire. Gets the knockout on a one, but Wilson stays in the play, looking to finish off the Poppy. Evanlai and Sunlight coming to try to clap back. He'll finish off the kill, flash back out over the wall, and here comes only 35 to keep the play alive. Magnet Storm onto two. Wilson continuing to stand and fight will eventually be taken down by Sunlight, who thinks he can turn this one around with the Maiden. Making it unfair, hits another E, chasing him down with the ghouls. Denethor on a sliver will not get tagged by the Maiden one last time and will waltz out with the rest of his team.
Man, we just got a lot of stuff going on here on the top side right here. Only 35 just kind of sending it, being a part of, you know, the play that caught out Enthralled right there while he was in transition to them trying to look for Denethor. Denethor outplays a little bit on the top side. Evan Low gets low, but I will still say the win con for Milk is still very much alive as these big shutdowns have been going to Sunlight. He's already finished his Trinity Force, and you see how much damage he's doing to the Papa Chonccs roster.
Yeah, really difficult to brawl with this guy when he has the Maiden, and nearly getting 2 kills back there. Cray sees Biostar up too far and says that's a 300 gold shutdown if we can snag it, but Biostar able to flash back and stay alive. Only 35 taking a lot of the damage for him. Enthralled flashes in to find the last shot. It's a double knock up from Wilson, trying to create a fight that can win this one out and make it favorable for the Papa's Chonccs. They don't have the damages to jump on over the wall. Going to throw Milk in pretty deep, right face to face with Denethor, but he's going to walk back out the way he came. Low health bars for Milk, but they get the kill and they get out.
I still steal the Scuttle Crab right there, but man, if Jin had the curtain call right there, I think that is a lot of kills left on the table right there. But with the health bars right here, Wilson... he's got them
far. Evan's trying to get this one started. Has the Crescent Guard. Might have used it too late, though. Takes a lot of damage from Bio. But now here's the collapse from Milk. There's dairy everywhere as they manage to finish on off Jin. And that'll be 2 kills for 2 traded in the extended play as Milk ended up going down as well.
Yeah, Cray making plays everywhere. Dies after that flash engage. TP's back with the Summoner Spellbook and slams Jin in the wall and says, all right, you got me the first time, but I'm going to make sure you go down this time.
And there is going to be an eternal fight between a Sunlight and Denethor for so much of this game, as long as they find themselves isolated against one another. Exchanging blows, both of them get down to about half. Only 35's in here. Just a wave high to Shelly, and maybe look for a little bit of a collapse, but you can already see Denethor has had to make the call to peel on away. And this Rift Herald is still standing, Sean. It's taken a long time for anybody to really be able to wrestle control of it. And at the end of the day, all that's really happened here is Milk has slowly closed the gold lead just a little bit. They're down maybe 1.5K now when it was closer to 2.5 earlier on.
Yeah, and if we could get a toggle of just the gold per the matchups right here, I just kind of want to see where the gold is and the gold leads. Obviously, the Azir has the least amount of gold, not named his support right now. So he's been a passenger for this early game where everything has been happening without him, as only 35 may be caught out right there as he gets knocked out on the crash down.
Yeah, well timed knock up from Evan Lai. Gets only 35 out of the crash down and finishes him off. It's a response TP from Sunlight now. Oh, and a response to the response. Denethor trying to give him the loop-de-loop. Goes into the bottom lane. Now Sunlight has left his team, and it's a true 4-on-4 on the bottom side. Sunlight making a beeline down from the top side to try to prevent this third dragon from going on over. What can Milk do to respond? Yeah, oh, what a tag from Evan, jumping on over, finding Bio. There's a Void Seeker as well, and they're going to solo out the Fed Marksman. The majority of the gold for Papa's Chonccs are gone, and Sunlight has arrived at the play. It's now a 5 versus 3 until the rejoin can occur. Milk in the middle of 3 of them, trying to get a little bit of damage on across, just hiding out inside the Shroud. Will be executed by Papa's ultimate. Crash down, Wands out of 2, stun back in from only 35. He returns to the play, and he gets so much done. It's a double kill over to Denethor. Sunlight low on health, isolated to the bottom side, gets one back on only 35, gets another big last rites. It's a double kill to Sunlight, but Denethor will finally put a stop to it and win the fight for the side of Papa's Chonccs.
Man, that was a crazy fight right there. I also, the whole TP for TP thing, seeing that way too much in all tiers of league where it's like, oh, we did this play, I'm gonna go cover this. I'm like, well, I'm gonna counter this. And Sunlight says, oh crap, I gotta run all the way back down. Evan Life finds a great pick on the Biostar, but Crawl, and then also Papa right there, really, really good Shurima shuffle to actually just kind of nuke some of those low health bars of Cray and Milk right there. But again, it's the Sunlight show, all right? And as long as the sun is shining, this Milk will not be spoiled. But Papa Chonccs, they're trying to make that Milk curd right now as they're setting up for this dragon.
It's the opposite of how Milk normally works, but we'll take it for this situation. Usually you want to keep that out of the sun, but we'll keep it for Sunlight this time around. He's turning plenty of things on their head this time around, not just the
different
champion
type
pools,
of
but
sun.
this, It's a different type of sun. And this will be the third dragon going over to Papa's Chonccs. Milk gets assigned to the top lane. Still had a few seconds left on the teleport, so they could not manufacture any kind of cross map there. And it will end up going on over to Papa's Chonccs. So they are now on sole point here at 20 minutes. And that is going to put a little bit of a timer on this for Milk. They cannot just play side lanes all day. They're going to have to respond to that one way or the other. The Otacon now up and available as well, kind of pulling everybody up towards the top side of the map.
Yeah, and this Otacon setup from Milk is going to be really, really important to me, because I think if they're able to use like the Rift Herald with Sunlight, whose TP will be coming, you know, off cooldown here very, very shortly, if they can overload and make a play into his lane, drop that Rift Herald with him, and make it be an answer for Papa Chonccs, then they'll be the ones that have the tempo to redeploy on the map onto this top side. That's what I'm kind of looking at for them. But if they don't end up doing that, I really think that the game state really favors Papa's Chonccs right now, as I'm having a hard time not calling them Winthrop.
I'm having a hard time not calling them Peach Cats. So we're in the same boat there, just a little bit. It's even this. I think Peach Cats use this same kind of pink color, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it is peach.
It is a peach. That is how I would describe the color. So
yeah, peach or salmon. So,
yeah, yeah, salmon at worst, peach at best. Is Cray gonna get found by only 35 here. Evan is caught in the jungle, already used the Crescent Guard, and that's not gonna do any help against people right in their face. The Sundered Sky proc, though, keeps Evan alive for way too long. It lets him trade back. Over the wall comes Papa, getting a shuffle back in, but it's all able to stay alive with the Killer Instinct, and Papa's Chonccs are two split apart. They don't have the backup of their big DPS carries, and they're gonna lose 3 for 1.
Yeah, I think taking that fight in the jungle from Papa Chonccs is like really ill-advised. It is not the kind of, you know, battleground that you want to fight on. Jhin can't approach. You see Azir going in and like shuffling, which is like things of the past, unless, you know, your name's Ruler, then you have like really, really scary thoughts about it. But that's in mid lane, and you don't want to fight in this jungle and these chokes where these flanks can happen for the likes of the Akali, to where your DPS can't hit. Luckily, they do stop the Otacon start from Milk right there, because I think Otacon, I know it's not as strong as the old one, but I still think this thing is super, super strong for not only just the petals that it gives, but even that little, you know, bloom executes thing that happens on every kill. So.
Yeah, the bloom's more than nothing, but the giant pile of XP is certainly a big objective there. Things are getting a little dicey there for a moment. That was almost a no jungle Otacon take. They're going to end up putting a stop to it, as Denethor does show off that he and Biostar are willing to challenge somewhat. These are some delayed recalls coming out of Sunlight in particular, who no longer has the Maiden. He's maidenless, if you would say. And that's going to make things a little difficult, as Papa's Chonccs threatening to start up the Otacon themselves.
Yeah, and again, I like this from Milk. We're going to use the Rift Herald. Oh, they might actually take it down before it makes the crash. Wow.
Wow. Good move there. Denethor, Biostar, and Wilson, just with enough upfront damage to put a stop to Shelly before she can get that crash in. Still, they had to get in a mid lane to respond to it. That does give a little bit of relief around this Otacon. Does let Sunlight and Milk come up to clear out a little bit of vision and get the push back in topside.
Yeah, we're about 50 seconds away from this sole point for the side of Papa Chonccs. And that was kind of like the timer that you wanted to start the Otacon, to where you didn't have to be like in a position to trade for it, right? As Evan
rooted up here, will get chased onto by Wilson. It will just be a secure of the enemy team blue buff. Sunlight, meanwhile, assigned to bottom lane, knows that there's plenty of folks all around him. Mid lane left a little uncovered here for Milk. Does get hard to hang on to these outer turrets as the game goes on. But Denethor doing a fine job clearing out the wave, and they're not actually able to put together the collapse onto him. They're dropping waves in top, but they have a shot at Soul here in 15 seconds.
Yeah, top wave for them, they're losing out a lot there, but it is so much more important for them to all be right here. And when we talk about that range advantage, now that, you know, Papa really...
Oh my God! Cray, one shot there by the poke damage of Papa's Chonccs. How's that for a poke composition? That is what PC stands for, as Denethor comes up with the kill. 3-item Jace just blows that Poppy up, makes Steadfast Presence passive look weak.
Yeah, I guess that's the problem with support Poppy. You don't have as much econ. They were able to pick up that Mountain Soul, which I really think does shift a lot of how these fights are going to be taken, even if they do something disadvantageous like Papa Chonccs did and taking a fight inside the jungle. But what we just saw from them, the way they approached, that as looks like Milk's trying to go in.
Oh, Milk maybe getting a little frustrated there with that interaction as they get knocked over to the wrong side of the wall thanks to the skies and cannot continue hitting onto Denethor. And now they're down a member. They know that the Akali's not here. This is dangerous territory for Evan. Like, Cray misses the Keeper's verdict, and that's all the signal Wilson needs to go in for a little bit more. Is going to get knocked up, thrown into the wall, and taken apart here by Milk. Enthralled finishes him off as there's just no follow-up from the rest of the PC roster. Now only 35 dismount. Getting chased on the opposite side, slowed up, walled in, and nowhere to go. Sunlight going to be able to force that flash out, and only 35 sitting on just a sliver. Is this enough of an advantage for Milk to start off Baron? Papa marked on the opposite side. This might be the signal.
Thor, what was that flash? No one saw it. I didn't see anything.
I didn't. I actually missed it.
He just kind of, I think he flashed in place.
I see it's down.
I think it was a misclick.
We'll call that a valid use.
Yeah.
Denethor still trying to get a little bit of poke damage into the side, and doesn't feel like they can start off the Baron. Evan and Sunlight are kind of low. Cray can't really face tank it, and the waves are not in favorable spots. So even though they got the pick, it doesn't look like it's going to mean anything in the grander scheme.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I know I said maybe the Mountain Soul allows them to do it, but like if Wilson goes in like 1v3 and the Poppy Steadfast Present hasn't been used, that's not going to work out for you. They should get this Otacon though from the late resets from the side of Milk. And I think that this into even a potential Baron start, just to bait them to come in, because that's what you want for the side of Papa Chonccs. You want them to walk into you. Will be really good, as now, again, they are just going to send it right here with this Baron start. They shred this thing with the Azir.
They're doing it fast with the Azir, and yeah, Milk, I mean, really kicking themselves for that late reset. Oh no, this is Milk. Backline. It's a double TP. Sunlight shows up as well. He's going to have to flash out to be able to stay alive. Sterix doing its job to keep the zombie standing, but they have only succeeded in delaying the Baron. The health bars are not even that low. Milk down summoners, still has access for the perfect execution. Can he find a route in to be able to get out of Biostar on the back line? Franklin already below half HP, and EC sticking together, staying as one, not getting picked apart. Here's the engage from Cray going to lock one up against the wall. Denethor going to end up falling down. It's a 1-for-1 trade for the support. Milk coming in on the side, going to be able to force that flash. Doesn't connect the Shuriken flip. It's a double kill as Papa has found himself a safe space in the back line to continue pumping out damage with the soldiers. Front line finally falls, but Wilson still stands. He gets the knockups. He sets up for the carries, and Biostar will walk away with a double kill. Papa's Chonccs take the fight 3 for ace.
Oh man, it's getting so close in these fights, man. You just see some of the help. Oh, come on. Okay, well, yeah.
No chrono break in ACL, guys. I'm gonna be real with you. So
yeah, I don't know what it could be, but you see the likes of like this Akali getting really close to taking down the back line of Papa Chonccs, but just has no access into there because of the likes of like Jarvan being there and the rail. But once the rail sends it in, and I think yeah,
this is the pause after the pause, but it's coming. Cray's TPing.
Does he have smite?
No, he has TP. He used it for TP. That's how he got here. So
no, but can he switch for smite would be great.
Well, let's see. He does. Oh, no way, Wilson. He connects the Q. Dragon Strike to pull himself out of the Keeper's verdict. And he overturns the Keeper's verdict. He stays in and smites the Baron.
Yeah, verdict overruled by Wilson right there. He says, nope. I'm gonna stay right here while I'm. And that's massive. Obviously, because then Poppy goes in, Biostar can't do it. They stop the Baron right there. But now that fight was absolutely so close. We do see some of the objective bounties coming on right now, but I do think that there is still a way if the base does not get absolutely blown open right now for the side of Milk. Well,
Ooh,
I spoke a little bit too soon
chased
because
down.
they're
There's
going
going
to be
to
down
be
a
a tumble in, a tumble out, a mess from Melk as he falls. Now Evan going to be isolated 1 versus 2 on the opposite side. He's working on only 35. Will be able to make it a 1-for-1 trade, but enthralled, or rather Biostar will be able to finish off the kill. It's a pick out of Cray off another deadly flourish. And what a performance from Biostar on his PC debut. 8, 2, and 8 connected the skill shots where necessary, and leading a charge into the base to take the bot lane inhibitor. Milk looking like they are on their last legs here, as only Sunlight and Enthralled can defend.
Everyone pressed you. That's what I love to see. As looks like Papa Chonccs going to be making their final push here.
Sunlight trying to face tank, already getting his maiden just demolished in front of him, and there goes the double kill. Melk coming back on up, still doesn't have the perfect execution, just going to try to buy some time alongside Cray, but it's just going to be stats boosted up for PC. It's a triple kill to Papa to pad those stats, and there is going to be the ace picked up again. Papa's Chonccs leading the series 1-0.
1-0 right there. Yeah, PC looking really, really good. Had some nice adaptations for the lane swaps right there. I like what they were doing. Papa kind of getting the short end of the stick, but still is Azir, still able to farm up, get some gold, had some nice kills, and was a part of these fights that we had talked about when everyone else was fighting on the top side. He was just farming on the bottom side. Really, really good. As we kind of see the roller coaster ride is what that actually looks like, of a gold graft.
It really shows. Yeah. I mean, Milk were in this for a long time, right? Up and down, never getting above like the 2.5K mark for 27 minutes, and then suddenly it's a 9K gold lead. The game's over.
Yeah, and I mean, like, again, I really, kind of want to shout out Sunlight from Milk right there. He did pull out his pocket York. I do think that he was set up to succeed, but there was just, I think, when it came down to it, I was a little bit disappointed with Milk's decision-making process about not contesting at least one of these Drakes, starting that first Drake off a little bit prematurely, after they got that pick onto Denethor, made that play on Denethor when they had that on the top side, not being there because of maybe Kai'Sa flash or ult. So just the neutral objective game, I think they were fighting really, really well for the amount of gold that they were down throughout the game. But looking over on the side of Papa Chonccs, Biostar, man, he didn't even have the most damage of all the carries, but he was huge in this early game and was set up to succeed, as well as Denethor into that Akali was just pumping damage.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think they set him up well, but do think when you're playing up against this sort of matchup, I appreciate seeing Milk go to their strengths, go to the kinds of comps that they're familiar with, but when you're facing off against a team like Papa's Chonccs, where it's the jungle support and top lane of a really successful NACL team, they're very well drilled, they're very well coached. Playing them in a lane assignments macro style game, it's going to be a tough ask for a tier 3 team, and I think it shows here in this game at number 1. Not quite able to keep pace in some of those clutch moments there. That double TP situation coming to mind as well is the one that you brought up earlier on. So we will see what Fearless does to this as we get into game number 2, and if Milk can find themselves maybe a little bit of something different to try to get themselves a either advantage for Sunlight or play towards a different lane entirely.
Yeah, I still am kind of looking towards Sunlight, but I am interested to see more of what Melk's champion pool goes into. No more B1 Azir. Do we still take red side if we're the side of, Milk, right? To make sure we have these counter picks, right? So that you don't give Denethor an option for a Camille angle or something like that. And then also, I think the Poppy pick overall was really good into the composition, but I do think that they lacked the ability to kind of go in and start plays on their own because it was just Xin Zhao, 4 melee champions, and Kai'Sa.
Absolutely. Shout out to Al Calamity for coming on in with the raid, by the way. Welcome
Oh,
You're
let's
not too late.
go.
We are just getting into game number 2, so there's plenty left to see. We are going to throw to a quick break before that game number 2, but first things first, I do want to give a shout out to Zen Market. Zen Market is your one-stop solution for buying products directly from Japan. They can help you buy items from over 10,000 shops, as well as place bids on auctions on your behalf. They'll even consolidate all your items safely into one box and can ship internationally. They provide excellent customer service in 19 languages, which is why Zen Market is trusted by over 2 million users worldwide. Check out the panel below the stream or click the link in the chat to try them out now. If you sign up with promo code Aegis, you'll get 1,000 yen off your first international shipping fee. In addition, check out the special viewer giveaway by typing !giveaway in the chat for your chance to win a Nintendo 64 courtesy of Zen Market. Thank you to them for sponsoring Aegis and the ACL. We will see you guys after a short break.
日本国内発送のみ？あ、それなら全マーケットね。
すごい迷宮だ。あの商品はどこに？あそこだ。でもどうすれば。わかった。よっと。はっ。うん。はっ。よし。
ありがとう、全マーケット。
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the ACL, where we have got ourselves a 1-0 lead to Papa's Chonccs after a back-and-forth game number 1.
Yeah, real big back and forth game number 1. Lots of fighting. Had a kill under a minute in the first blood was in the first 50 seconds of the game. Absolutely love that. Makes it really, really fun where we just get to watch a bunch of people slugging it out on the riff. But overall, a lot of early lane leads coming for the side of Papa Chonccs right there. Milk was able to kind of fight back, but just outside of the grubs and the Herald that they took when the Drake went down for the side of Papa Chonccs, so that the soul point right there. Not really a lot of early gain of objective control from the side of Milk, and I'm really, really hoping we see a little bit of change in that as we go into game 2 here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, full fearless always means we're very likely to see a brand new strategies each and every game. So let's see what Papa's Chonccs and Milk have to show for us in this game. Number 2 is going to be blue side for PC once again. Is going to give the R5 counter pick to Milk. We'll see if they end up using it for top lane this time around.
Yeah, I'm not. Whoa, I'm not speaking well. Sorry about that. I'm not sure if we'll see another blind mid lane. I know that the Orianna ban was like one of the bans that they had at the very end right there. But we did see, you know, that Kled ban. I still think we'll see the Evan Lai Ivern. I think that is going to be staying there. But when like
yeah,
we're
it was
looking
Mundo
at
Kled Ivern last game. We'll see if any of those boys can sneak on through.
I don't think, if I'm Papa Chonccs, I'm keeping it the same. I always think that the onus generally, if you're going to be on the same side against the team you just beat, the onus is upon the other side. Change up a little bit because you should have something prepared into what you're looking for, especially when you're on red side. You're going to get 2 potential picks that you know that you want here. I'm really looking at like a 80 carry pick for both of these people right here, whether it's like the Varus right here. Kai'Sa's down, Jin's down, so Varus immediately shoots up into priority for me, as well as possibly Ezreal. I'm not sure if Biostar does play that, but I think that might be a really, really good pick for the way that PC was playing around their top side.
Definitely, and there goes the Ivern off the list. So will be another champion no longer available for Milk, and it will be the full 3 bans, same old, same old. First pick goes over to Papa's Chonccs once again. The Azir already gone. The Talia still notably available. That's something that's gotten banned against Papa quite a bit. Would not shock me to see it. The Aurora in a similar category, although it does surprise me to see it trialed over the Talia.
Well, the only thing is Papa Chonccs and Denethor plays Aurora top all the time.
True.
So it can be something that he flexes into the top lane, especially against Sunlight's champion pool. Be really, really annoying. I think they've just always hovered this Yone. If it ends up being that Aurora mid, I would love to like see like the Annie answer into it, right? So like just pick your jungler and 80 carry right here, but they will be locking in that Yone right here. And I'll be interested if we do see like maybe like something like a Sejuani coming out from Evan Lai, or if they're going to look to like then now go with what I was talking about with the 80 carries in the bot lane with the likes of like Varus being available.
Yeah, they did play Yone Sejuani up against Lotus, but the Zac is snapped up. And this is a flex to me. I'm going to be real with you. I don't know that this is 100% Evan Lai. You could play this top for Sunlight.
I think this is 90-10 Sunlight Zac top, in my opinion.
You think it's most likely Sunlight Zac top?
I think it's most likely Sunlight until he sees that he's laning versus Aurora top. And then he's like, I don't want to do this.
In theory, he's seen it already. He should already know. It's not Aurora top isn't exactly brand new tech, especially from the team that just put Azir top last game. But we will see if that does hold true. PC going to snap up the Lucian, and they kind of have their pick of the litter for Lucian duos. The Braum a little bit nerfed, still going to be available. Emilio's still there. Nami's still there. Feels like people are drifting back into Nami territory, but frankly, the fact that there's 3 of them now, unless Milk is willing to take one and ban the other 2 right here on R3, you can't really stop the Lucian. Ever since people started remembering that Lucian Braum is still pretty strong, feels like it's hard to ban out the Lucian duos, and you can kind of just do these kinds of drafts where you take Lucian and don't care about support.
Please do not lock in this. Please do not lock in this smolder, man. I mean, like, it gives them obviously the scaling advantage. But yeah, to your point, Lucian getting a lot of priority. Yes, the Lucian Braum became a big thing. Melio and Nami right there, and they do lock in the smolder. So we got a dragon on our hands. So at least Milk will get one dragon this game. But will they be able to get it to that elder kind of pseudo elder buff right there for the smolder?
We'll have to see. They definitely do need to get it scaled on up for Enthralled. We'll see what they can do to be able to navigate his way over there. Into the Lucian lane is going to be a tough one. We'll find out. There's going to be the Nautilus already banned away. And what will PC look to take off the board? Probably, I mean, you want to think about stuff like the Tom Kench just to make sure that you can't keep that smolder safe no matter what happens. And you can't deny the resets to Viego or anything either.
All right, so with the Garen ban, this makes, like, you know, maybe they're just banning out the potential Sunlight champions as if that Zac doesn't go top and they're still thinking the Aurora top. But to me, that shows that it's going most likely going to be the Aurora mid. And okay, all right, there we go. Camille right there. So both sides not knowing where these things are going to be going, whether it's the Zac top jungle or the Aurora top mid right here, as the Darius is going to be banned away right here. And I actually think that this, if you want to keep the Zac flex right here so you can have the best lane for it to go into, I'm thinking some sort of enchanter in the bot lane for, there's no way we're playing War.
Shout out to the Salt Mine, by the way, for coming on over fresh off a Supernova win. So yeah, Supernova made the comeback. We were talking about Supernova versus Cupid in the break and how it looked like Cupid might take that to a game 3. Didn't happen. Supernova complete the comeback. They complete the 2-0. They have qualified for ACL playoffs. Congrats to Supernova. Shouldn't be a huge surprise to anybody. The #1 team right now in ACL does, in fact, make their way into ACL playoffs nice and early. See if Papa's Chonccs are going to be able to join them here as that Mordekaiser snatch up. I was focusing on the raid, but I do think that puts the Zac in the jungle. We're in the 10% of realities, Sean. It doesn't go over to Sunlight after all.
Yeah, one right there. But I do think it is going to be the Aurora top answering into the Mordekaiser to just kind of play keep away right there. Also, Viego Ari playing for resets. I think the Leona is really, really interesting because obviously Milk knew that they had to find ways to start these fights. I don't think Braum is necessarily a bad choice here for Milk. Right here, you have some melee champions that you can work with right here. It gives you a little bit of extra. There's no... Stop these hovers. These hovers... What?
All right. They might be listening to you, Sean. They might be listening to the stream.
Yeah, I think they're like, hold on, let me just troll Sean a bit more because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Let me flip through my Rolodex here, see what we've got.
The Shin support is an old answer into Leona, but there we go. Here's the Braum.
That's a real pick. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I'm surprised to see the Lucian Leona come on through when so many powerful Lucian duos were available, and those are often pretty nice with the Viego as well, but recall does end up being, they want the solar flare.
Yeah, I think that if you have the enchanter in the bot lane, or if you blind the Braum, right? I'm always a huge blind Braum hater, but I know that some of the people over at Winthrop disagree with me, and that's totally fine. They get paid better and they're better coaches, but you need a way to start off some of these fights. And I actually really like Leona because it's one of the few supports that was left available that has access to try to get to this smolder, right? And then get the dive from Aurora, from the Viego, from the Ari, able to kind of, come in on these flanks right here. But for the side of Milk, really, really interesting top side once again. Sunlight Mordekaiser, going to banish someone to Brazil, also known as the Shadow Realm. And it's going to make, hopefully, these fights for Yone and Zac really, depending on who he takes away, right? Whether it's like the Viego, in my opinion, or like the Ari. I think if you take one of those two away from these fights, you really kind of take away what Papa Chonccs is trying to do with these resets. But they're playing that scaling game again. It's almost exactly the same sort of makeup as their last one. You have fighting from Milk in the mid lane. Sunlight's going to want to be in a side lane and just send someone over to Brazil with him. But now Enthralled, instead of being on this hyper carry Kaisa that we saw last game, going to be on the late game insurance against the extremely short range comp from the side of Papa Chonccs.
Yeah, and I don't mean to put you on the spot here, Sean, but I'm gonna put you on the spot here. So we've seen Yone Sejuani drafts from many teams. We've seen Yone Sejuani drafts from this team. They played it against Lotus last week. What in your mind inspires you on R1, R2 when you already have the Yone and all that you see is this Aurora to go for the Zac instead of the Sejuani jungle?
About 3 different possibilities. One, it's comfort, and this is a game where you just want to get stuff that they know that they're good at and they're really comfortable at. Maybe the enemy team hasn't seen in a while, right? So that's something like the Zac, something like the Mordekaiser, right? These are the things that you feel good about. 2, which I think is the most likely after being in some drafts, where, okay, we're going to pick this Zac here and we're going to flex it. And then when when you're like, oh, you know what? You probably play this top lane. Well, I really don't want to play Zac into Aurora. Well, what do you want to play? Give me more. All right, cool. That's where I think it's more, unless there's just some matchup thing that I have no idea, where just, R2 Zac is just super OP. I do think he's really, really strong right now, especially in top lane. And the third one is just, I don't know, man. That's my third reality. I don't know what reality, what that is, Gordo. But they decided it's the one that we're living in right here. So Doctor Strange giving us that one reality that we are in, where hopefully it's the one where Milk Esports shows why R2 Zac is really, really good, and they're able to take us to a game 3.
I mean, definitely a dangerous scaling composition for Milk Esports, no matter what way you shake it, right? Milk is going to get really, really dangerous here on the Yone. Enthralled, of course, going to be in the same boat on the Smolder. And the Mordekaiser kind of naturally scales well, right? Taking out a whole champion, especially a whole champion of your choice, always going to be very, very good. And the only true tank in this game going to be Evan Lai on the Zac. So a big opportunity to just stay alive for a long time, be disruptive, be annoying, and potentially even be a bit of a damage threat up against some of the squishier members of Pop's Chonccs. The Zac, one of those champions that can, be in the area of like the Maokais of the world, where you can stop off at an AP item if you do so desire, get yourself a Rift Maker or something, or maybe even like a Leandries or something to try to get yourself a little bit of extra damage, if that makes sense to you, and will help you out with maybe a little bit of assassination potential alongside the rest of your team. So lots of options here available to Milk if they are able to navigate this early game, because there is definitely some powerful laning matchups for Papa's Chonccs, both in mid and in bot.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you hit on that. You just set me up for the point that I was looking at, is that we saw
That's
last
my job,
game.
baby.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have any level 1 shenanigans from Papa's Chonccs like we did last time, because they're going to be going into a Braum. But I will say that their laning in the early game is advantageous for some of these early invades, like we saw last time. Viego into Zac in the early parts of the game is really, really good. Zac, not the best duelist, obviously. And looking more at the Zac pick, there's a lot of mobility on the side of Papa Chonccs. Unfortunately, not the 80 carry for the Winthrop people, but the 80 carry name mobility. There's obviously mobility on Lucian, just so everyone is aware. But Zac, I think, is going to have a really hard time looking to make some of these plays in the mid game. Once he gets that level 9 and gets that fully elastic slingshot set up, then I think we can start seeing a lot more. I'm just really, really interested to see, again, how do they play these objectives, because now it's flipped to where I think that the scaling advantage is obviously in their favor. And while they don't have a standard front to back team comp, I think they're the ones that want to play more front to back, where what we saw from Papa Chonccs last game, where they had the straight front to back team fight comp, but they kept on fighting in these choke points. If they want to continue doing that this time, I think that's actually more advantageous for them, because of the style of the champions that they've drafted for themselves. And that they should be the ones looking to split some of these early neutrals, or at least get some of the advantages on those objectives, because they do get outscaled.
Absolutely here. We'll be having an eye on what Milk Esports bot lane is going to look like, because Biosphere just got so catapulted ahead in game number 1 that feels like we didn't really get to see a fair fight between these two bot lanes. But Enthralled and Cray coming in, having a solid LRN split to themselves so far, and been playing as a duo for a little bit longer than ACL has been going on. Very interested to see how they're going to be able to perform in the 2 versus 2 as a duo, while only 35 being a very well-performing support over an NACL is playing with a marksman that he's a little bit less familiar with, and if not one that just subbed in tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Also, if the pause would have lasted any longer, I think PC was about to stand for please casters start the game. As we're now in the game right here, and I'm really interested to kind of see what does Papa Chonccs with Papa and Wilson look to do with these early prios that they're having. I don't think we're going to see any real lane swap shenanigans like last game. I think the lanes for both sides they opted into and they're actually kind of fine with. But I think they're going to be really looking to like put this Zach behind early, take away some of his resources, and maybe even like try to pop the passive in the jungle as we see them just trading a little bit here. Right now as a flash charm.
Yeah, that's a flash charm out of Papa. Ends up hitting Sunlight right in the face, and he's losing way too much health. He's going to have to flash out of here. Now Milk looking to fight back over towards the rest of the team. PC might be on the wrong side of the map. They're going to fall on down, and Thrall gets first blood on a Papa. He pays for blowing the flash early, and it's Milk that come out the better.
When I said I didn't think we were going to see any early shenanigans because of Braum exists on the other side, they got really close to killing Sunlight. I will give them that. But Braum existing, and we actually are going to see a lane swap where the Yone is going into the Aurora. I quite like this now that I think about it, but I thought they were just going to be okay with the way things were. And Thrall getting that boots purchase that Biostir did in the last game. So it'll be really interesting.
It's tradition now. I mean, it was a swap from PC last game. Now it's Milk returning the favor. We can swap up the scoreboard there as well as Sunlight going to be laning in mid up against Papa. The fact that it's a flashless, teleportless Ahri might give you a little bit more relief there when he himself finds himself flashless. So will help you cover the Mordekaiser a little bit better after the level 1 shenanigans that you just discussed. Doesn't mean that Milk will have to play in that longer lane, but at least he's the summoners. Cray getting locked down, taking a ton of damage, and Thrall's gonna try to fight this one out, but you're level 2 Smolder, buddy. You are going down. Biostir on the board early once again.
Yeah, I think that engage from Braum was a bit cray to beat a horse to death of this pun that I've been using all game. But, you got an early lead. Your guy is still Smolder, and we're looking to trade on this. It's a bit unfortunate, and yeah, these lane matchups, Aurora just does a little bit too much damage for my liking. Her trade pattern is a little bit too easy to proc and just make your life really miserable in lane.
I mean, really good stuff there from Denethor in the top lane as well, finding some really great skill shot accuracy on towards Milk, and forcing out that TP nice and early. This lane, topside, really favoring Denethor, the matchup that he's gotten for himself. And Sunlight falling behind as well. Biostir up 2 levels, putting the pressure onto Enthralled. Really good stuff from him. And only 35 coming in for the backup. The Milk Esports bottom lane getting forced entirely out of this one and will not really be... The Dragon's not even up yet, but they're definitely not getting access to this Scuttle Crab. And now Cray needs somebody to jump to, and Thrall gets right up against the wall to give him a path out. But that is just putting a bandage on a heavily bleeding wound in this bottom lane as Enthralled. Chunked to about half. Cray, summonerless, chunked even lower.
Yep. Oh,
what
really
a snag from Milk. That's going to force the flash out of Denethor, and he gets taken down. This game's a mess, Sean.
Oh man, and we got more mess in the bot lane here as Biostir's really low on mana. Enthralled going to just chip away at him. Man, that was such a nice play from Milk in the top side to kind of catch him right there. Denethor trying to play at his limit right there does end up going down and gonna take a bit of return damage as well right there as Evan is blocking this because he knew that Trickster Wilson was on that top side right there.
Man of many names. Cray is falling way too low here. He is going to die to Biostir. The barrier has come and gone. Thrall doesn't have the damage. It's a 2v2 double kill to Papa's Chonccs, and Biostir at only 35. They are looking dominant here against the Milk Esports bot lane, and now this dive potentially manifesting up there. It is looking real dicey for Milk. Things going from bad to worse here for Milk. They're trying to get themselves out to safety, get some good damage on a Denethor. They get the execute. Evan has the cell division. Knockup comes through onto Wilson. That's a 2v2 double kill back to Milk.
No, oh my gosh, I thought they were dead for sure. Evan just sitting top lane the whole time. You know, the health bars down. Denethor now 0-2. Yes, he is up a good amount of farm, but the gold bounty is on this 2-0-2 Yone right now, who will become an absolute menace as this game goes on. And Evan Lai just, you know, able to like give some resources right here, as his early game has been kind of, you know, squandered by some of the invades and the pressure. He hasn't been able to do much, but that really helps him right there as Denethor going in right there.
No, that is a big between worlds on top of Enthralled and Cray. Enthralled is level 4, but will possibly be able to get himself out of there by flapping away. Cray taking too much damage, dodges out on the weirding. That'll be enough to keep him alive, and he picks up a kill. Winter's Bite over the wall, held still by Evan. It's now Melk getting caught on the opposite side, gonna be able to hold down only 35, forces him to take a couple of turret shots. Biostir's up here. That's an amped up turret, nearly solos Biostir out. I think that would have been an execute, and now Milk should be able to get himself out of here. Needs a TP from Sunlight. That's actually a TP from Cray coming on up, says, hey, I've had some good luck in these fights so far. Let's see if we can take ourselves another one. Sunlight trying to cheat his way out up there. Evan caught in the jungle, and there is just constant champion combat in this early game.
Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be like an analyst, but I don't know what the heck is going on right now. They're just fighting everywhere, and like the dives that are being attempted, just everyone should just stop doing dives, especially Papa Chonccs. Wilson, calm down. You got camps to go farm right now. There's a Drake open. All right, as only 35 is just a menace right now, and he's doing a Trevor play.
What? All right, it's kind of waiting around behind. He's kind of low, though. Gonna get CC'd pretty fast. Unfortunately, Enthralled does no damage. Here comes Wilson looking for another one. Gonna get stunned up nice and early.
No
this is a TP from Sunlight, and Evan is coming on up here as well. Can they dive the divers? There's an exchange in the bottom side as well, and I think Wilson might have to abandon this. Bio try to clear it on out, but Evan threatening.
Oh, I wanted to see Papa Chonccs play a little bit fast in the early game because they get outscaled. This is a little bit too fast, right? This is fast too furious, right? And I just want fast and furious. I want the first one, as you know, Sunlight TP'd there, didn't do anything, goes back. They're gonna get these grubs now. That's gonna be the first objective of the game. I don't think either team really wants them anymore, but I just think it's just nice to have grubs. It's good after like a play goes well for you. And right now, if you're Milk, you are loving that you're only down 700 right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough position for Enthralled. Your Smolder is definitely behind, but I don't think you really care because Papa's Chonccs aren't stacking dragons, so they're not really going to accelerate the game that much unless they start really blowing you out of the water gold-wise. And in order to do that, they're going to have to start winning these fights that they keep on looking for. A little bit of harassment found on a Sunlight there, who is still farming it out in mid lane. I think the main thing Papa's Chonccs have going for them is how immensely ahead this Akali is of either of the opposing solo laners. The question is it enough, or are the kill golds just offsetting it? Because Papa hasn't been a participant in all these ridiculous fights, whereas Melk is actually 2-0-2 despite the deficit.
Yeah, and Evan goes in, tries to secure. And this is the problem. They were taking his whole entire bot side, and he should die right here. Actually has the flash available.
He's bouncing away. I mean, it's a level 4 Leona showing on up alongside Wilson, who is at a level disadvantage as well, and it's an armored up Evan Lai. He's got a chain vest. What are you going to do about that?
Well, apparently nothing, as they just allow him to use his ult to get away. and they're looking to. I am so tired of Papa Chonccs looking for some of these fights because unless they have a numbers advantage, I really am.
They're TPing for this. This is a 4 versus 3, making a 4 versus 4 as Evan gets involved. Trickster in the middle of nowhere will trade 1 for 1. Sunlight has Papa in the death realm. He's going to come out of here before too long. Denethor TPs into the fray. And Milk trying to hunt down some stragglers if they can find him. Good damage there on a Milk. Gets his force flash because of Denethor's damage threat. And that's a 1 for 1 with 3 TPs exchanged by both teams. And the fight might still go on. Only 35 stopping the recall from Evan. He's going to pull him right back over the wall. That's a nice little combo for the blast cone. Only 35 forced to flash away. A jump out from Melk. Once again threatened by Papa. Sunlight's got Papa executed and will finish him off alongside Evan. That makes this extended play a 2 for 1 in favor of Milk. And they have control over the bottom side.
And they're still not going to start at the Dragon. There's 11 kills in 11 minutes. I love this. If there was a way that we can get a smolder stat counter, because I think that's actually the one thing that might be a saving grace for Milk as well, that while he is down in both farm and in kills, there's been so much fighting that I think he's been able to stack so much on champions that he might be a little bit accelerated on that end. Whereas everything else has just been so many fights right now, and I think Melky is looking to go down right here, but Evan is here.
Oh, there's a good amount of damage coming through onto Melk. See if he can get that smolder stack check before too long. But Denethor absorbing pressure, falling over the rest of his team. Evan already in and out and about, finding his way away from the danger, escorting Melk out to safety as well. Papa's Chonccs have been unwilling to let anything go this game. I mean, Wilson at only 35 will let no disrespect go unpunished. They are going to farm up in between the towers, force another wave crash, and constantly be looking for potential dives on a Melk here.
Yeah, now I will say from the early part where, you know, it was 2-0-2 on the zone, still there, but the CS lead has not grown. I have not seen him farm a minion in like the past 2.5 minutes. He's at 60 CS. He's almost down twice as much to his lane opponent in the Ari right here, and has less farm than both junglers. So really needing to get, you know, to that Blade of the Rune King that we thought he was going to be accelerated into after the early plays, but more of this trading and less of the farming, and he's going to be delaying that first item power spike.
Definitely is. Now we find ourselves with this dragon up and available. This is still the first dragon of the game. And another dragon that's up and available is Enthralled, who Biostir at only 35 continue to pressure as much as they possibly can. They have had probably the most successful laning phase on Papa's Chonccs. Evanly over the wall, though, doesn't connect the stretching strike. Still looking for combat anyway. Bouncing on only 35's face and will be able to finish him on off. Enthralled going to be handed this kill. That's his 3rd of the game, as Sunlight TPs in for the backup and pings on towards the dragon. Milk will be the ones to pull the trigger first. They have a numbers advantage, although Enthralled getting pressured by Biostar in the mid lane.
It looks like they're going to look for a fight again. Both of these teams use anything. They use red buffs, they use minions, they use objectives to just try to start fighting. As Cray going a little bit too deep.
Yeah, he's going to get executed here. That's going to be the first reset of the fight for Wilson. He's going to try to escape now using Stand Behind Me. Milk nearly able to finish him off. Great call out from Papa on the Soul Unbound. Picks off his lane opponent and will be able to get the first kill of the fight for his squad. Now Evanly forced to retreat back away. Spirit Rush, still plenty of charges left. Evan with nowhere to go, sent into the Cell division and will be finished off in turn. 3 kills over to Papa's Chonccs as well as that dragon.
Ooh.
Make it 4 as Biostir finds the solo kill onto Enthralled.
Man, that's a lot right there. And again, you had the numbers advantage, but you look to continue the fight. And then what ends up happening is that their reinforcements come in because we're not focused on the objective right there. They ended up losing the objective. They end up losing the fight. And the gold lead has now gone to 3,000 for the side of them. But Sunlight is trying to just take down Denethor right here as, oh, that weirdling is in the Death Realm.
Yeah, that's
so
an
funny.
interesting interaction. He goes to the Between Worlds, gets stopped halfway through by Brazil, but will be able to navigate his way out of there anyway. Denethor makes it work in a bit of a wonky champion interaction situation. Still will be forced out of the lane. That will give Sunlight some alone time with the turret, as Wilson finding another pick in the river. Cray. Yeah,
Okay.
Does this
That
get
just-
him away? I think it
Yeah,
does.
it does. They just said, screw it. We are not chasing this guy right now.
Yeah, he's deep behind enemy lines, and it looks like he has been saved. Only 35 going in for the dive. Enthralled, left out to dry. His support's taking a vacation in the enemy jungle. But Enthralled will survive. It just costs him both of his summoner spells. Now has access to Mom as well to try to clear the wave. Will he call for Mom? Or will he just wait for the team? Here comes Mom to clear out the wave. Just does a little bit of damage to it, though. And Biostar going to be able to finish off that turret. Either way, Papa coming over the wall, knows that Melk is here, dodged away from by Soul Unbound, still has to dip and dive back away. Evanly secures the Rift Herald on the other side of the map. And there's just constant violence everywhere, Sean. It's not going to stop there. Cray back from the depths of the enemy jungle, going to look for a pick on only 35. And Melk is happy to oblige. Coming in with the Ignite. There's going to be a block onto the Charm to keep Melk alive and cooking. Trying to finish off only 35. One more sweep through with a sword will secure it. And Papa just barely avoids getting stunned by the concussive blows. Enthralled is still in a 1-versus-1 with Biostar. He still doesn't win that one for anyone keeping track at home.
He's going on, man. Evanly secures the Rift Herald, but has to slingshot out, so he doesn't even get to pick it up because he was doing it on a timer where he had no pressure in mid lane, and Sunlight's really low. Then in the bottom side, Melk has only farmed 30 minions since the last 3 minutes that we just did this. He still hasn't completed his Blade of the Rune King, probably until now. As we all know, that 17-minute Blade of the Rune King power spike is what they were aiming for when he started out 2-0-2. But man, with just so much fighting for seemingly only the reason to fight. And maybe that's why
Fighting for kills.
That's why you pick Zach on R2. All right,
I, for one, am very curious about this Smolder Lucian one-on-one. I want to see how it goes the 4th time when the Smolder, who's down 2 items, goes in for the battle. Here it goes. He's actually baited him in. The long con pays off for Enthralled here, or does it? As Biostar is still creating some space. Finally, Evanly going to be able to get the kill. Meanwhile, it's a collapse on the opposite side onto Sunlight. He just pops the Death Realm onto only 35, calls over the rest of the team, says, hey guys, I'm going to demolish this Leona really quick. Let's see if we can get a fight going between worlds from Denethor. Pretty effective onto 3. First reset comes through for Trickster. It will be another one given on over as Cray is finished on off. Evanly going to drop 2. He doesn't have the cell division any longer. Enthralled alive to the play, but he is basically a big minion at this stage of the game. He is executed immediately by Papa. Melk trying to escape now, caught in the Soul Unbound, finished by Denethor. It's a 4 for 2. Papa's Chonccs winning out the battle yet again, as Sunlight cannot stand up to the dive. He trades 1 for 1 with Wilson.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Gordo. I had to leave you hanging right there. There is just so much fighting right now. We did get a Smolder stat count, and he is at 135. So not too bad. He has gotten a lot, but he's also died a lot. As we can see it right there, the 135. Yes. He is down 2 full levels to Biostar because of all the fights. And 50 CS. And you're down almost 90 CS in mid lane. Papa doing tons of work right here on this Ahri. This one of the champions that I, most closely associate with him. And Milk now with these objective bounties, they are down that 5,000 gold right now. Looking to just, I would say, if you can just slow this down, because you've been kind of playing the game that I think that Papa Chonccs has wanted to play, and they were playing it and not executing early, but you kind of gave them avenues back in to do this, as here comes another engage.
Yeah, this one's on to Evanly. He's still pretty tanky, trying to bounce his way on out of there. Will be able to channel the Elastic Slingshot, but now he's into the cell division. They're going to try to execute him. Look at the damage out of that Between Worlds to kill all the Bloblets. And Denethor walking away with another one. Evanly down, going to make this a nice, easy dragon take for Papa's Chonccs. Here's the thing, Sean. It feels like Milk should be able to stop playing this game at almost any time. And if they just play super passive and turtle up, it's going to take PC a long time to actually secure the resources they need to close out this game.
Well, see, I know you say that, and like they can stop. They are definitely in control of what they're doing here. I still think, again,
they are in control of their own actions. They have autonomy.
Yes, it's true, but I do think because of their previous actions that they cannot just let things go by because of the agency that Papa Chonccs does have. You know, PC is what I was trying to tell Milk, just please chill for a little bit of this, but they didn't, and then now they're at this point where they're at that, you know, 5,000 gold deficit, and the Otacon and the Drake go down as Milk gonna get really low. Pull and bound gonna go backwards as my god, Denethor's damage is just unreal.
Huge damage out of Denethor to get another pick, make that 2 as Papa goes on a killing spree, taking down Sunlight. And it looks like it's all starting to fall apart for Milk. They haven't stopped fighting, Sean. The fights keep coming, and Papa's Chonccs keep winning them. They are up to over 5K, making almost 6K in the lead. Enthralled is still not online on this Smolder, and I don't even know if we're going to get to that point at the current rate of play. He doesn't get to farm any of the minions. He just constantly gets abused by Biostir, has to flash away even with Mom's healing, and they lose an inner turret.
Yeah, I know Mom's healing's right there, but we were talking about, do they have autonomy? Well, I think PC might actually just be in parental controls right now because they're the ones in control of this game, just exuding their will everywhere. Biostar able to just walk up and just start culling anybody. The amount of damage that's coming out of him, out of Denethor, and what we've seen from Papa as well is just insane. I also want to shout out Only35, who's been a part of, 9 of these 17 kills, as we have 29 kills in 22 minutes. Definitely not something you want to see when you're a Smolder team, unless Smolder's the one getting all these kills. But if they're able to just kind of slow down, Evan Lai needs to stop having that happy trigger on these elastic slingshots, because every time we've kind of seen him go in, especially when he does not have his cell division up for his passive, it's really tough for the rest of his team to follow up.
They bringing out the bottom side. It's a one-on-one. Wilson versus Melk. Flash away. Dives back in. Doesn't connect. It's so close, but Denethor makes it an unfair fight. There's some regen back and available for Wilson as he looks to make this into 2 kills. Enthralled, trying to get one back. One more auto from Evan. Will be able to get the stun, but he's healing too much. He's healing too fast. Evan will finally be able to get the kill, but 2 others have died in the fray. Denethor is just taking down member after member of Milk Esports, while Evan tries to scrounge up the 1 kill onto Wilson, and PC come up 3 for 1.
Yeah, man, again, they're just fighting. And also, every time I see Milk on my screen, he is fighting someone to the death, using his soul unbound and then ulting right away. And it's like, bro, we are not at that stage of the game right now. We have to take a look at the rest of the map. As Sunlight, I think this is actually something he's more comfortable in. He does have the treads right there. And again, Melk's on my screen, fighting someone to the death, and it might just be his.
Yeah, Cray stepping on up, though, has Biostir up pretty far. Evan Lai coming on in as well. They will be able to get this stun. Enthralled gets tons of damage onto his lane opponent. Still can't finish him off. There's just no way Biostir survives this. Evan gonna go in to clean up the mess, but we've been here before. Papa. We've seen this song and dance, and it's a 3 for 1 for PC. We just saw it happen bot lane. It happens again.
Yeah, it's like that SpongeBob meme where it's like, you want to see us win? You want to see us do it again? That's basically what's going on. It's Only35 gets to go to Brazil. Flash being burned right here, but Sunlight gonna find out a cloudy day right here. And Denethor's damage, he has 18 stacks in this book right now. As I'm surprised he's been able to, write any pages in it with as much action as we've had. But I guess it's an action book.
Just kind of scribbles in there in the midst of all the fighting. Or maybe he just counts them up after the fights are over, as it's constant 3 for 1s the whole game long. Does get a little bit of breathing room there. He's about to take down another inner turret. Add that one as its own chapter. A 10 kill lead plus a 10k gold advantage for Papa's Chonccs. 2 Magi's, both of them at the movement speed threshold. That's gold efficiency right there, Sean.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at like the state of the items, you have 3 items on your solo laners and 3 items on your AD carry, whereas Enthralled, again, 3 levels down and just he cannot be on mid wave. Bilster, you know, for being a sub, you know, someone that we haven't seen a lot of, right, has looked really, really good in both of these games. As Papa, yeah, you just do that and it's fine. They're going to start at the Baron now that they know that Zach is on the bottom side, and they deal so much damage to this, just a 2-man squad of Wilson and Bilster.
All right, Sean, I've received a transmission. Enthralled is online. He's got 225 stacks. It's happened.
And, yeah, we
he might get one fight with them.
I mean, you know, at this point, because of the lack of dragons that were taken early, still not at Soul. Right now it is the Ocean Soul. But if you do get one fight, we're actually making a play onto the Ahri.
We are. This is 2 versus 1 play out of the Ahri while we lose the game on the other side of the map. You gotta make this kill happen out of Papa. 2 inhibitors down. Pressure coming onto the Nexus turrets. Enthralled doing his best to clear out these waves. It's a 3 versus 4 up against the Baron buff. Papa's still alive. Papa survives the whole way through. He's still got 2 charges of Spirit Rush. He's got rushes to spare. As Biostir returns fire, they will back away after securing the double inhibitor. Papa recalls, he TPs right back to the bottom lane to pick up where he left off, and Milk, they are floundering.
Yeah, I think, you know, 2 inhibs down. I think if Papa Chonccs look to send it here on this 3rd inhib, this is actually the time for Milk to try to come back into this. But I think that Papa Chonccs is someone's resetting right now. They're gonna look to get the dragon on the back end of their Baron. And then, you know, now that you have hit that spike for Enthralled, again, 1 team fight is really all that it takes. And I think Sunlight finding a good ult target is just as important as Enthralled being able to hit, as Evan Lai is taking a lot of damage.
Big stop there by Cray Cray to prevent that charm from coming on through. But it is just a small reward for a big cost. Milk down on every resource imaginable, just trying to hold on to their base against this Baron siege. The Baron just about to drop off here, but can they hold on for the remaining minute?
Yeah, and Papa, you know, has been the Papa of this game, almost flame horizoning his counterpart here.
I'd be willing to bet he did at one point. We probably just weren't looking. But
that's possibly true, as Denethor is just looking to just one-shot someone.
Oh, though, right in Cray Cray's face, gets most of his damage blocked away. He will be finished off by Enthralled, but Enthralled is already gone. Blinking, you miss it. And the AD carry for Milk Esports is no more. Nobody able to hold on up against the full force of Papa's Chonccs. And PC this time going to stand for Premier Competitors, Sean, as they have locked themselves in a top 4 seed in the ACL.
Yeah, and you know, really, really nice stuff. I thought that this early game was probably some of the sloppiest League of Legends from teams of this caliber that I have seen in a very long time, but they kept on doing it. They knew they had to force it, and then the team that didn't have to play that style of game tried to answer it. And as you can see, like, the damage numbers, I think, speak for you. Don't even have to look at the gold graph. If we were just blind to the gold graph, you would just see the amount of damage that Biostir put out here. And then you look at what Milk has, and for all of his deaths on mid lane and being put behind, Enthralled still putting up 21,000 damage for this. But again, I think a little bit too much fighting. You asked, why do we pick the Zac on R2? I think we have our answer. You don't. It was just so hard for him.
That's another question, more so than it's an answer, Sean. But
But it's just he had such a hard time in the early game getting pressured out of not to farm. He did stay really, really close in farm, but taking these fights, the same thing with the, Yone. I thought after that top lane defense that they had, where the Yone was able to get, 2-0 and 2, was going to set them up to have something to play for, but they just continued to fight on bad timers when they weren't the stronger ones. And Papa Chonccs were able to, persevere and, get that top 4 seed here for the ACL league right now. And, hats off to them, and a huge hats off to Bioster playing
Oh, absolutely.
just a fantastic 2 games.
Yeah, great day for Bioster here, coming in as the substitute. A great performance. And we were talking before we got started that we weren't really sure about this player. His previous ACL experiences as a jungler didn't do very well in that split either, but showing up here with the Papa's Chonccs roster, doing more than his fair share, really getting big leads both games. Huge pressure one-on-one up against Enthralled here. You can definitely see a situation, you see it a million times at ACL, right? Where the more experienced team, the more experienced player makes early mistakes, gives up the lead, but they just make up for it later on against the inexperienced player and are able to gather themselves an advantage, even in matchups or situations where it doesn't feel like they should be able to. Doesn't happen this time around. It is really Biostar just carrying through the whole way long. And you know what, Sean? You and I, as members of the seeding committee, we can take a little victory lap here. We can do a little pat on our back. All the seed 1 teams qualify for ACL playoffs. This was the last series to end up. So your first 4 teams into the ACL playoffs, who could have guessed? Papa's Chonccs, Supernova, CCG, and Citadel.
Yeah, and I think that it's awesome. Again, I love this new format. Now they're going to be able to just kind of play for seeding against each other, correct? Right, to see which ones are the top 4 seeds. But then that makes like the soup real good soup, because while they didn't show in this game 2, as much promise as I kind of thought they would, game 1 from Milk still looked really, really good. I think they had still some really, really good ideas. I think that their decision making around neutral objectives is something that I think they should really look into, like fixing as the weeks go by. But outside of that, like this team, Cupid, Gravity, all the ones that were playing on the other streams that were going tonight that ended up losing the series, I think they're still some of our favorites, and were favorites for us on this seeding committee to be also in like that top 8.
Absolutely here. So, definitely still plenty left to play for the likes of Milk Esports. Still playoff spots to be determined in this initial stage, right? The 2nd seed out of these initial 6-team GSL groups. They also lock themselves up an early playoff spot in the 5th through 8th seed. And then everybody else will be reseeded into one final ranking GSL to determine who our last 8 in and who our first 8 out are going to be for the rest of this ACL. So, love the format. Very excited to see it continue to play out. And I do think we are manufacturing ourselves a little interview here with somebody from Papa's Chonccs. So I'm going to do my best to facilitate that during a quick break. But before we take that break, do want to once again shout out Zen Market, your one-stop solution for buying products directly from Japan. They'll help you buy items from over 10,000 shops, as well as place bids on auctions on your behalf. They'll even consolidate all your items safely into one box and can ship internationally. They provide excellent customer service in 19 languages, which is why Zen Market is trusted by over 2 million users worldwide. Check out the panel below the stream or click the link in chat to try them out now. If you sign up with promo code Aegis, you'll get 1,000 yen off your first international shipping fee. In addition, exclamation point giveaway in the chat to check out your chance to win a Nintendo 64. Thank you again to Zen Market for supporting the ACL. We're going to throw it to a quick break here, but we'll be back shortly.
Bro, just use Zen Market.
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the ACL, where we are joined by the victorious Bioster after subbing in with Papa's Chonccs and qualifying for the ACL playoffs. Congratulations, Bio.
Thank you.
I want to open things up here. First question: you come in as a substitute here for Chrome today. What's it like subbing in with the rest of Papa's Chonccs, a squad that's kind of been playing together under the Winthrop banner for a really long time? How does gelling with the rest of the squad or joining a team that already has a lot of experience together kind of play out for you?
It felt pretty easy, to be honest. Everyone's like kind of on the same page with what they want to do, and like just everyone has like the same idea of how to play the game. So it's just like trying to fit into that dynamic, and it just worked out pretty well, as you saw.
Yeah, for sure. I want to, really shout out. Obviously, getting some nice early leads in that game one on the Jin makes it a little bit nicer. Game two, really great Lucian performance. Just for people who don't know, you do play a lot of AD carry, and so what are some of like your main champions that you kind of enjoy playing mostly? And then also for a team thing, what are the goals for like Papa Chonccs coming into ACL?
For team goals in specific, I'm not too sure. I kind of just subbed in for Papa because he asked me to. He's a good friend, but
There you go.
I think they want to win this probably with the roster, and I'm pretty sure they can. They have a really good roster going, really good comms, really good players. Champions wise, I like Kaisa, Lucian, Ophelia. It's just like anything, to be honest. I don't really mind. But yeah.
Good stuff. Well, we got exposed to you last ACL split. You're playing jungle over on Tempest Gaming. Kind of curious as to what it's like kind of playing in the new ACL format with a whole different team on a new position. Like, what do you see as kind of like, first of all, like your main role, what you'd rather be playing, and what you are kind of looking to get out of each ACL as were a starter in a different position last split and now kind of coming in as a sub, helping out with Chrome.
To be honest, I like playing AC, yeah, but I just kind of hopped in to help Papa today because I could not play ACL initially because of team issues. But I think just learning from people around me was pretty easy. Like everyone on the roster is really talented, and it's just like their comms and the way they play, just pretty easy to pick up on good habits and stuff. So like I think just learn the game better through them.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Really appreciate you coming on and joining us here. Can't wait to kind of see your growth. Hope that you're able to kind of, after watching this game here, kind of want to see you on a starting roster somewhere, whether that's OQs or something like that in the AD carry position. After you're able to be like the sponge and kind of absorb everything here from Papa Chonccs. Do you have like any shout outs or anything you want to shout out before we head out?
Honestly, shout out the whole roster. Denethor, Wilson, Papa. Only 35 was like the easiest supports to play with, like genuinely the best support to play with. So shout out him. Shout out Jaxter, shout out Arlet, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you once again, Bio. Appreciate you hopping on here. I know you got to get going, so you are free to go, my friend. Congratulations once again on the win, and congratulations to all of Papa's Chonccs on qualifying for the ACL playoffs. That is going to do it for our broadcast here tonight. Thank you, everybody at home, for tuning on in. Thank you, Sean, for coming in at short notice to hang out with me on the broadcast. Was a bunch of fun. We will see you all tomorrow as we are getting right back into more ACL action. Papa's Chonccs and the other Tier 1 seeds have earned themselves a break for the rest of the week, but everybody else going to continue competing as they fight for better seeding and even qualification into the ACL playoffs. So we hope to see everybody here. Same bat time, same bat Twitch channel. We will see you guys tomorrow at 8 Eastern. Thank you all once again. We'll see you next time.